You meet someone new today, maybe at work, maybe in line for coffee. Within a tenth of a second, before they even speak, your brain has already decided something about them. You just don't know it yet. That decision will shape everything that follows. Whether you smile, whether you relax your shoulders, whether you trust a single word they say. But the real answer to why this happens is far stranger than simple first impressions. It reaches back through hundreds of thousands of years to a version of you that never wore clothes, never spoke a modern language, and never once imagined a coffee shop. Your brain wasn't built for strangers. Not really. For most of human history, you would have lived in a band of maybe 30 to 50 people. You would have known every one of their faces, every voice, every walk, every laugh, every way they cleared their throat. A new face was rare, and rare, to your ancestors, meant one thing above all else: risk. Psychologist Robert Zajonc spent decades studying something called the mere exposure effect. The idea is simple. The more you're exposed to something, the more you tend to like it. Not because it becomes more interesting, not because it does anything special, just because it becomes familiar. Zajonc ran experiments where he showed people random shapes, nonsense words, even unfamiliar faces, over and over. People rated the repeated ones as more pleasant every single time. They couldn't explain why. They just felt it. Familiarity, to your brain, is evidence of safety. Think about that for a second. Not truth. Not goodness. Just repetition. If your brain has seen something before and survived, it quietly files that thing under probably fine. A stranger has no file. A stranger is a blank page, and blank pages made your ancestors nervous. Here's where it gets stranger still. Your brain doesn't just note the difference between familiar and unfamiliar. It reacts to it, physically, before you're even aware you've noticed a new face. Neuroscientist Paul Whalen has shown that the amygdala, the almond-shaped structure buried deep in your brain, responds to unfamiliar faces within milliseconds. Milliseconds. That's faster than conscious thought. Faster than you can form the sentence, "Who is this? Why would evolution build something so fast?" Because slow judgment gets you killed. If a new person walked into camp 50,000 years ago, your ancestors didn't have the luxury of a long, thoughtful evaluation. They needed an answer immediately. Friend or threat, ally or danger. The amygdala was the shortcut. It still is. But your ancestors weren't just wired to fear strangers. They were wired to test them, fast, using something you still do without noticing. Coalitional psychology, a term researchers like Robert Zajonc have used, describes how your brain instantly sorts people into groups. Us. Them. Even now, you do this in seconds. A shirt color. An accent. A shared laugh at the same joke. Your brain doesn't need much. It just needs a flag to plant. This is uncomfortable to hear, maybe. You'd like to think you judge people on their character, given time, given evidence. And you do, eventually. But the very first judgment, the one that decides how open you'll be to gathering that evidence at all, happens before logic gets a vote. Consider what happens in your body when you meet someone new. Your palms might dampen slightly. Your heart rate ticks up, even if only by a beat or two. Your pupils, without your permission, adjust. This isn't nerves in the way you think of nerves. This is an ancient threat assessment system running its full diagnostic, the same one that once decided whether to fight, flee, or extend an open hand. Anthropologist Sarah Blaffer-Hrdy has argued that humans are unusual among primates because we also evolved deep cooperative instincts alongside our caution. We are not simply fearful of strangers. We are also, remarkably, willing to trust them, under the right conditions, faster than almost any other species on Earth. This is the paradox sitting underneath every first meeting you'll ever have. Two ancient systems running at once. One whispering danger. One whispering opportunity. So which one wins? Usually, it comes down to small signals your conscious mind barely registers. A relaxed posture. Open palms. A voice pitched slightly lower, slightly slower. These are the same signals your ancestors would have looked for around a fire, deciding whether the person approaching meant to share food or take it. Here's the twist most people never expect. The stranger sitting across from you today, the one your brain is quietly, instantly judging, is statistically far less likely to harm you than almost anyone your ancestors ever met. Modern life has done something extraordinary. It has surrounded you with more unfamiliar faces in a single day than your ancestors would have seen in years, and yet violent encounters between strangers are rarer, per capita, than at almost any point in human history. Your brain hasn't caught up. It's still running software built for a world of 30 people and rare visitors. Now you live in cities, scroll past thousands of faces on a screen, sit next to strangers on trains, and shake hands with people you'll never see again. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between a colleague at a conference and a raider approaching camp. It just knows new face, elevated alert. This is why meeting new people, for so many, feels exhausting in a way that seeing old friends never does. It's not social awkwardness. It's not shyness. Not exactly. It's your nervous system quietly, constantly, running risk assessments that made perfect sense on the savanna and now mostly just make you tired at parties. Psychologist Nicholas Epley ran a series of studies asking commuters to talk to strangers on trains and buses versus sitting in comfortable silence. Almost everyone predicted the silence would be more pleasant. Almost everyone was wrong. The conversations, again and again, left people happier than they expected, sometimes markedly so. The catch was the anticipation. People dreaded the interaction more than they actually disliked it. That gap between what your brain predicts and what actually happens is the real story here. Your ancient alarm system is loud, but it isn't always accurate. It evolved to keep you cautious, not to keep you correct. It flags the stranger as a question mark before you've gathered a single piece of real evidence. Think about the last time a stranger became a friend. Somewhere in that process, your brain quietly moved them from one file to another. Unfamiliar to familiar. Threat to ally. It happened through repetition, through small moments of safety, stacking on top of each other. The exact mechanism Zajonc identified decades ago, still running in you today, in every relationship you've ever built from nothing. You are not wrong to feel a flicker of caution around someone new. That flicker kept your ancestors alive long enough to become your ancestors. But you are also not obligated to obey it completely. The same brain that once needed 30 seconds to decide friend or foe now has the luxury, most of the time, of 30 conversations, 30 shared meals, 30 small tests of character before the verdict really matters. Tonight, you'll probably pass a stranger, maybe several. And in that fraction of a second before you look away or say hello, an ancient piece of machinery will fire, checking a face against every face it has ever trusted, running a calculation older than language itself. You won't feel it happening. You'll just feel a little wary or a little curious and think it was simply you deciding. But the real answer is far stranger. It was never really just you deciding at all.